Hi, it's Carl Irwin, the Common Magician. I've got something interesting to discuss with you today. In particular, I want to talk about coins I like to carry. I like to carry a silver dollar. This is a replica Morgan silver dollar. It's got Lady Liberty on the face, and then it's got on the back you have the eagle. And what I like to do with these is really interesting. I want you to watch very, very closely, and you'll notice something really peculiar. It's gone. It's completely gone, absolutely gone. Today, we're going to talk about ditching. We're going to talk about ditching. And I want to talk about ditching kind of in a comprehensive manner. And the reason why I think this is a good subject for this channel is because for the common magician, you're likely not going to be extremely proficient in complicated sleight of hand. Not just with cards, but certainly with coins. But that doesn't mean you can't do an abundance of coin magic. And in particular, ditching has to do mostly with the application of vanishing a coin. Whenever you vanish a coin and you're not ditching the coin, one thing that I think is true whether you're professional or amateur, or, I mean, you can be an amateur and be extremely proficient. There's a lot of amateur magicians out there. Many actually reputable magicians are amateurs. They don't actually make a living on their magic. They do something else, and then they are also proficient at their magic. So I don't want to confuse these terms. But for someone who is not highly proficient, there's some professionals that are not highly proficient, as if we're being honest about it. You're likely going to be doing coin magic where if you are holding out the coin when vanishing it, you're going to want to bring it back in short order. And this goes not just with people that are not proficient, but people that are proficient, because there is the obvious statement, it's in your other hand, right? And even for a very proficient coin magician, there are spectators who look at any kind of performance with a coin, and in spite of whatever is actually going on, they will say it's in your other hand. It's in your other hand. I have some nieces and nephews that have been trained in this response. It's in your other hand. It really doesn't matter what you're doing. That's always a quick reply. Again, even if it's not, doesn't pertain to what's actually going on. So if you're doing sleight of hand, you're going to want to bring the coin back. But if you want to do a vanish, if you want to do something with the coin where it is gone and you want to be clean, you're going to have to ditch it. I've told the story many times about how when I was young, I learned, one of the first sleights I ever learned, even before I got into cards, was with a coin. It was, a quarter, and I take the quarter and you do the French drop where you make it vanish and it's gone. And the problem is that it's in the other hand. And as a kid, I was, obviously fooled by this and thought that was amazing. But when I went to do it, even if my French drop was very good, even if I did all of the appropriate subtleties, and we'll talk about the subtleties here in a minute, about taking a coin, falsely taking a coin, and having a coin that you don't actually have, in spite of all that stuff, you're still stuck in this situation. It's gone, and I'm still here. If my goal was to vanish the coin, well, I've only done half of the work. I didn't really get rid of the coin. I'm still holding it out in the open, in the most logical place for it to be. So you're going to have to ditch the coin. You got to get rid of it in some way if that's really how you want to end. Now, if I'm going to vanish the coin using a means like this, same kind of French drop thing, obviously there are subtleties to demonstrating emptiness that could be added to it. But I'm still stuck in a bad situation because it still is in play. And you do this, and then, someone will say, wait, I need to see all of your hand. People do this kind of stuff. And it really doesn't matter how good you are. there are those spectators. And for those of you who are the common magicians out there, your spectators are family and friends, the people who will bust on you relentlessly. So you're going to need to ditch the coin. You just have to do it. So we're going to talk about ditching and the various ways to ditch, how I think it's important to deal in subtleties when ditching the coin, not merely subtleties in the preceding moments, but more importantly, the subtleties after the ditching has occurred that still strongly imply the presence of a coin when in fact there's nothing there. So first of all, let me talk about the vanish. This is known as the TNSCT vanish, which stands for there's no stinking coin there. I'm kidding. There's no name for this. It's really just the no coin vanish, and I'm just picking on coin magicians out there and really magicians in general who come up with something, and then they put some kind of acronym to it as if they've invented something new. This is simple. Okay? You either have a coin in play and you're doing something visual, such as a retention, a vision, and then vanishing. And in this case, when you're doing something like this moment of the flash plays heavily into the actual illusion of what's going on. They saw the coin right there, and because they saw the coin right here in this moment, it's important that it is vanished almost immediately from the point where they last saw it. Okay, that's kind of critical, and we'll talk a little bit about sleights in a moment, these visual kinds of sleights. But in general, visual sleights, when you're dealing with the no coin vanish, they really aren't that terribly relevant, and they're not that useful. You don't really need to have a very visual kind of presentation of the coin being locked into a place, because we're going to be dealing with other kinds of psychological subtleties and other more general visual subtleties that will help to strongly imply the presence of the coin. If I was doing a one coin routine where I'm not ditching, just to get over this, I would do my vanish. I would show emptiness in several different ways, and then I would probably do some transfers to keep the coin out of play. And if I was continuing on in this way, I would do some other kind of revelation to bring the coin back. And you do this in cycle over and over and over again in a one coin routine. And in general, you're going to end with the coin present. But if you're not, and this matters for one coin routines, this no coin vanish idea. If you're not going to do that, then you're going to have to ditch the coin somehow, right? You're going to have to do that. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the finality, the end, the conclusion, getting rid of the thing. And for many of you who are common magicians like me, it may just be that you simply vanish a coin. That is the trick. It's just one kind of sledgehammer effect. It's not a bunch of coin magic, but it is an illusion with a coin one time. That's it. Okay. So ditching, the topic. Well, there's a few things that we need to discuss. Where to ditch, that's big. When to ditch, that's also big. And then, of course, how to ditch. So you have the when, the where, and the how. But in addition to this, we're going to talk about subtleties, because subtleties are what's going to allow us to ditch in a way that we are not caught ditching the coin, because that's a big issue, right? How many of you have done some kind of vanish with a small object and you're caught doing the ditch? That moment, it's like I've gotten rid of the coin, or rather I've put the coin in play, and now I've got to do something with this coin, and my hands are out here, so if I go to pocket, well, what are you doing with the pocket? It's in the other hand, right? This kind of suspicion that people have. So subtleties are going to help us with that, so that we can get away with what we're doing. Okay, so first of all, where to ditch. Topic number one. Pockets, sleeves, lap, Other places that are on the body, there's you can ditch to the watch. This is suspicious. It's not even the move. The move could be done extremely well, right? The move could be done extremely well. So, the coin is seen in front of the palm at this moment, and it's still, you do all the appropriate subtleties to get rid of the coin. You could do all of that, but you're still left in this situation where the mind is saying, okay, it's not anywhere, but it did not vanish. You have a watch on. Can I see your watch? Can I see, and again, for the common magician, you're going to deal with that. So maybe the watch, but I consider that a holdout. I think this is just one step better than being in this situation or being in this incredibly awkward situation, right? Or any other kind of situation, being in this kind of situation or this kind of situation. Whatever kind of palming or holdout technique you can use, I think the watch is only one step better than that. And so I bring it up, but it's not a favorite of mine. And the next ones we have pocket, sleeves, lap, watch, magnet. And we'll talk about magnets in a minute. A magnet is a holdout, but I think you can place a magnet in such a way where it's ditched. It's just not, it's so far away from the action that no one's going to be going back to it. No one's going to be saying, hey, what about the magnet in your back pocket? Like, that's just not even something that's considered. And then the last one here, so you have pocket, sleeves, lap, magnet, and then the last one I'll say is creative space. Creative spaces. So if you're working in an environment that's unique, you're sitting down but in a certain place, maybe you're sitting on the floor in a place where you're sitting without a table, you can get really, really creative about where you ditch to. You just look at locations that are nearby, and I do this a lot with small object magic, not related to a coin, just vanishing small objects, dealing with small objects, little items that just happen to be nearby. And I usually go to the creative ditch. I look for places where I can place something casually out of the way and using subtleties to demonstrate that it's still in play, but get rid of it off of my body somewhere else. We'll discuss that maybe a little bit if we have some time. Maybe not. It's not an easy topic to discuss. You kind of have to feel out your moment and then deal with the subtleties and some of the other elements that are related to pockets and other places and sleeves and stuff like that and lapping, and try to apply that kind of mentality to any creative space that's available to you to ditch. So those are the where. That's the where. Preferences for me, I prefer the back pocket or the right front pocket. Sometimes I'll use a shirt pocket if I'm wearing a jacket and a shirt. But of course, if I'm wearing a jacket, then the jacket pocket is also available. One thing you can do if you have a jacket on, I wear a suit every day for work. I'm a teacher and I wear suits every day. I am old school. That's just the way I've always been. And I'm not changing tomorrow. I've been doing it long enough that that's the way it's going to be. But that's very advantageous to have a jacket on, because you can take the pocket, and many jackets will have a flap on the pocket. If you take the pocket and just tuck it into the pocket, take the flap and tuck it into the pocket, then you have an open pocket that's very accessible for ditching. So, pockets in that way. Usually, though, the front right side pocket and the back right pocket. Those are my favorite locations for ditching. Now, second topic is when to ditch. When to ditch. So, I say you ditch early. You should ditch as early as you possibly can. In general, I would say the moment that something has been placed into, or apparently been placed into, its final location or penultimate location, which maybe we'll talk about in a moment. It doesn't have to be the final place when we get to some of the subtleties later on. But the moment that the coin, we'll say coin in this case, is placed into the hand, the moment you do that, you should get rid of this at that moment. right then and there. And the reason for this is simple, because the attention is now here where the coin is supposed to be. Now, subtleties will help with this. If you're doing this and you have a tight fist, believe it or not, merely having a tight fist actually makes the ditching more difficult. This makes everything harder because now there's an implication of something going to happen. I'm holding tight onto this coin, and I only hold tight onto something like this if I'm going to show that it's gone. So this is kind of getting ahead of ourselves into subtleties, but assuming that you place the coin and you're holding it loosely, you're doing the subtleties as you should. Right now is when you should ditch. This is the moment, okay? Before additional subtleties. Now, I did this, and then I did this as the subtleties. I think you should ditch before you do this. Before you do any kind of subtleties, before you do any other kind of false transfer, any other kind of subtle, if I take it like this, a false take, and I'm holding it at the fingertips, before I dwell on this and I gesture with the coin, I should ditch it at this moment before I do anything more with it. Okay, so that's my opinion. Ditch early as best you can before you get into subtleties, because you want to do those subtleties clean, right? When I'm doing them, I want to be able to do the subtleties like this, because a subtlety, this subtlety like this, right, is not as clean as the same subtlety like this, right? If I can say it's one thing to go, the eagle is on the back, and it's another thing to go, the eagle is on the back, right? And it doesn't matter how loose you are with it. You could be using a finger palm and doing the Ramsey subtlety. This is weaker than being able to go like this, right? To make a gesture like this. Okay, so these subtleties you want to say for the second part as best you can. And in these cases, again, I want to impress upon you that the coin is not seen at the last moment. These are not visual kinds of vanishes. We're strongly implying the presence of a coin, but you're not going to get that moment. Well, I just saw it and then it was gone. Okay, it's going to be more of a cerebral. I just saw it and then it was gone, but not I saw the flash and then it wasn't there anymore. Okay, so just keep that in mind. This is a different kind of magic than maybe what you're aspiring for. If you're aspiring for that kind of visual disappearance, then really this isn't the topic for you. You're going to be ditching when you're hot. Good luck. Any visual sleight can be treated in this way. Don't get me wrong, right? Again, so if you do some kind of a visual kind of take, where there's a retention of vision there, you can still ditch, but this isn't necessary. This is a superfluous kind of detail when you could have just done that, or you could have done that, or you could have done that, or you could have, which I've been trying to do, or you could have done that. Well, I didn't get it. Or you could have done that, right? Which is another subtlety, using metal. I would even go so far to say that you should avoid the visual placements, just because those visual placements have a layer of heat in and of themselves, right? When I'm doing this, there's heat in that moment because it's an awkward way to take a coin. There's certainly heat in that moment because it's kind of an awkward placement. It looks really good. It looks better if I'm out of the light, actually, so you can get the flash, right? You see the flash for that retention of vision. It looks better, but it serves that purpose. It has an awkwardness to it in and of itself that draws heat, whereas this has no awkwardness to it at all. Or this, has no awkwardness to it at all. This is very, very clean, a simple kind of pass or false take. So I think we want to place our effect later rather than earlier and not draw suspicion. Now, that's when to ditch. How to ditch. This is what you're waiting for. Okay, let's deal with pockets first of all. So I think that one way to do this is with an additional item. Ditch. So it works like this. Kind of set myself up, and I'll stand up here and try to do this in the camera. So the additional item ditch works kind of like this. You take the item, and then you say, and now let me show you something here. We're going to take a pen, and in the coin, if you watch closely, I'm going to drive it right through. And of course, this works because there is no coin. The coin is gone. And the idea here is that if I get another item out, I have an excuse to go for the pocket and get rid of this is the simplest way to do it, right? If you have a reason to go to the pocket for something else, then you have a way to get rid of it. And it's essentially just an extension of the concept of the wand, right? The wand vanish, where if you take an item and you transfer and you pick up a wand, the fact that I have a wand in the hand means that this is the thing in the hand. There's nothing else in the hand. However, we're taking this a step further and we're ditching for the wand, and the wand is the thing in the hand and there's nothing else in play, right? So you can either do a false take, put this in the pocket. You can do a false take, go to the pocket, and you can see I'm applying a subtlety, but normally you want to, I think part of my theory here is that you want to apply the subtlety afterward. You can even kind of noodle around with it and say, watch very closely. I'm going to shove the pen right through the middle of the coin. And I can do this because there is no coin. And I've ditched the coin. So going for another object, this is a really, really good way to ditch an item, is just put something else into play. It gives you the excuse to go back to the pocket. Very strong. Some people may want to avoid that kind of way to do it. But I think it's pretty clean. And there's justification there, forgettable moment that you went for. That you're 3 steps into it before anybody notices that something has happened. It's harder to trace back than you think. So additional item ditch. That's one way. The turn the focus ditch. And again, I'll stand up to do this. So turning the focus is pretty simple. If I have the coin and I put it here and then I hold it out like that, I've changed the focus. The focus is here. And I said at the beginning of this that you want to do the subtleties after you've ditched. The nice thing about this is I can do the subtleties after I've ditched because I'm ditching when there's a larger motion going on prior to the subtleties. I have the coin, I transfer it over, I ditch the thing, and then I do my subtlety. And the focus is out here, and then I can turn my hand over. I'm open on the coin. Now I'm turned over, and now I'm locked in, but I'm already clean. I can even throw out the scent a little bit, right? And do some things like this and bring the hand back, point to the hand where the coin is at. And I've got apparently palming going on. My hands, it's not palming, it's a natural look. I'm not like pretending to hold something, but the hand is closed. I can do this. And then at the moment of revelation, I can show the hands empty. And this can really kind of blow minds. Now, the way this works, though, is that whenever I'm turning the focus, whenever I turn the focus, I'm actually turning my body and I'm getting my ditching location out of way. Now, this can work well with a back pocket. I've got a sweatshirt on, so it's a little harder because this is in the way. But if you're in a t-shirt or a shirt that sits higher than the pocket, you can do this and you don't really have to turn very hard. You can turn just a little bit, and behind my back, my arm is actually going up in the air and I'm just dropping that into the pocket. But this is behind, this whole chicken wing motion is actually behind my back. It's not really seen. It just looks like I'm standing there like this, even though my arm is up. Okay, and this is a very, very quick motion, but it's just in the simple act. And it also helps to do this. If you have this side forward it also helps to do this because now I'm doing a larger motion. I've ditched it very quickly. I got my subtleties. I can bring my hand back into play casually. I could, at this moment, after I've done that, I could do some other kind of a transfer, false transfer, and then I can have it vanish in this way. But just the turning of the focus gives you literally seconds to accomplish the ditch that you need to. Again, can be done with a false take, right? You turn the focus and you're holding it here, and you could even hold out and say, could you put your hand out? No, like this, put your hand out. So we have our coin. Another thing that I'll get into this right now, just because I may forget later when I talk about subtleties. But when you're talking about something specifically with the coin, you can say, look, I've got a Morgan silver dollar here, and you can see that there is Lady Liberty on the front, and then there is the eagle is on the back right here. Could you put your hand out? Go ahead, put your hand out just like this, and then you make it vanish. But whenever you're talking about something in the act of the ditch, I have a coin, Lady Liberty's on the front. You can see that on the back we have the eagle. I've turned, the coin is still in play. In 2 seconds I've ditched the coin, and the coin is still visible, right? And I'm talking about it. So this is getting into subtleties. But I think turning focus ditch is probably the ditch that I do the most. That's what I do usually. I am holding it apparently in the open, immediately after taking it, turning position so the hand falls to my side, and then I have an opportunity to get it to a pocket. I have cargo pants on right now, and actually I'm just thinking about this right now. But I actually have cargo pants on, so there's a pocket right here. I could do the same kind of thing, and then I'm ditching. That's strong. I mean, look how strong that is. So situationally, depending on the garments that you're wearing, I just can have, that nice and open at the beginning, show the coin. You can see that Lady Liberty's on the front, the eagle is on the back, and I've ditched it, and the hand never really even went out of view. I've turned focus, and I can say, could you put your hand out, please? Watch this closely, and then I can do that. So that's the turn focus ditch. I think another one worth talking about, a variation, is an innocent movement ditch. The innocent movement ditch. And that kind of works like this. This is a pre-ditch ditch. So I have the coin is in play, the coin is taken, and then it's ditched back into the hand, right? I mean, one of the best known applications of this is the coin through hand. So you say, I have a coin, I'm going to rub it on the back of the hand. You can see I don't have another coin there. And what I've done is I've actually ditched the coin, not ditched the coin, but I've taken the coin back into the hand. In the act of showing it empty and then turning it over, I take the coin back. So it's one of those. The coin can be taken from the hand, and then the hand innocently moves back, it's taken back, or it can be placed into place like this, and then as the hand moves back, it's innocently taken. There's a lot of variations you can do with this. Now, my feeling on this is I think it adds more steps than are necessary, but it does create psychological subtlety. The coin is taken. Visually, it's taken. You can see that, right? It does add a layer. For sure. I'm not sure it's a layer that's worth adding, though. So anyway, innocent movement ditch. So you do an innocent movement, then you turn focus, and you ditch at that moment. So just a kind of another layer to put on it. The next how to ditch topic is sleeves. So sleeving. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. This is not ideal. I have a sweatshirt on, which is a little bit tighter than having like a dinner jacket on or a suit jacket on. But you can do it like this. So you take a coin. One way is to flick the coin. So if I have the coin here and then I flick it into the sleeve, and it's gone. And I'm not sure I actually made it into the sleeve or not. I think I got it actually into my jacket here. Ooh, wow! I just flicked it into an inner pocket. That's like a top it. That's a top it. kind of vanish, which is another thing. I mean, I didn't even think about bringing that up, but you could ditch into a jacket in that way. So I missed the sleeve. Again, these are not the best for that, but you can flick off into the sleeve. I got it that time, so it's into the sleeve. Another way to do this is to, if you have sleeves that are rigid enough so that they don't lay on the hand flat, which this does, you could false transfer over, and then in the act of gesturing up, you can actually slide the coin, will go down into the sleeve, and it's down into the sleeve here. Other more common sleeving is where you're actually doing some motion where you have the thing. You can either get rid of the coin like this and then ditch back, and these sleeves are not big enough for me to do it, but you can flick back in and throw it into the sleeve. That's another way to do it. You can do it from the hand that's doing it, higher risk in my opinion, or you can get rid of the coin, right, in some way, and then ditch in that way. But those are good possibilities if you're wearing the right apparel. Okay, lapping. This is more likely what I do because I do sit at a table often. But you're sitting at a restaurant. One thing you want to have is something to catch. So a handkerchief of some kind. When you're at a restaurant situation, you already have your napkin sitting on your lap. If you're following proper etiquette, you'll do that. So if you have a napkin sitting there, you could take the coin and lap it, which is what I did at the beginning of this video. So that's when you say, I have a coin here. You can see there's Lady Liberty on the top, and then if you look on the back, you can see that there's an eagle. Now I want you to watch this very closely. It's gone. So what I did was, in this case, I pick it up and I slide it back to the edge of the table and just drop it into my lap. You can even extend this a little bit if you give it a flick before you get to the edge. If you slide it back and I flick it, I can throw it in line of sight at least the last 4 or 5 inches without ever getting to the edge of the table. You can see Lady Liberty on the face. You can see that there's an eagle on the back. False transfer is a subtlety, and then you vanish it from here, and of course you're completely clean. So lapping is a really, really great way to ditch. And you can do this by turning focus. Really, all the things that apply to pockets can apply to lapping. You can go for another item. If I have this in my pocket or whatever, I can take the coin, false take, and I can go for my thing, and I can lap it when I go for something else. And because I've lapped it when I went for something else, it's in my lap, it's not in my pocket. That means that it's now in play if I want to bring it back in down the road, right? I can go to put this away, and when I put it away, I can come back with the coin in play. And I can say, oh, remember the coin? I want you to watch this very closely. If I take something here and something here and something here, I can bring the coin back, right? You could do anything from the lap to bring it back into play that you can't really get away with from the pocket quite as easily. I think that's pretty much all I want to say on lapping. The watch, I think we talked about enough. The watch is a holdout more than it is a ditch, but it's something to consider. Magnet, this one's fun. So using a magnet, now for this you need to have a magnetic coin. You need to have a steel coin or a magnetic coin, a coin that has a magnet in it. The way this works is you take a magnet and you place it inside of the pocket. And I usually put this in my back pocket, and I usually set the magnet right in the corner, right here underneath my wallet. Be careful with wallets and magnets. If you have credit cards in there, magnets can do bad things to them, so you just want to make sure that you're very cautious about that. But the idea here, that magnet is, it's a rare earth magnet. It's kind of a square, really strong magnet, but I wrapped it in plastic tape so that it's a little bit softer. It's got kind of a plastic coating on it so that it's not making a clinking sound. That plus the fabric can help to mask the sound of the coin touching it. There's a little bit of a sound there. But this makes all of the pocketing ditches a lot easier because now that's coming to a natural location. So as my hand drops to the natural spot right at my pocket, right where my pants hold, the coin's gone and it's held in place. And I consider this ditching because nobody's going to look back there. Like, that's not a consideration. The coin is taken, it comes down, the coin is gone. It's gone. Okay, so this is a really, really good solution, I think, is using a magnet. Now, you can put a magnet in a lot of different places. You can place a magnet in a jacket. You can place it within the liner of the jacket, at the base of a jacket. You could put it inside of a sweatshirt. You could put it on a belt just inside the flap of a jacket to get rid of in that spot, and you can have it pulled away. And it's kind of like the benefit of having a pull without having a pull. It can be put inside of a flap of something or away from view. The other nice thing about a magnet is, kind of like with lapping, I can retrieve the coin very easily and I can bring the coin back into place. So a magnet is very, very, very strong if you have a magnetic coin, using a magnet to ditch. It keeps you from having to go to pockets, and you can ditch a little bit more quickly. So that's where to ditch, when to ditch, and how to ditch. Let's talk about the subtleties. Words. You need to be talking about something. So to go back to the first example, the example I showed at the very beginning, I have a coin here. You can see that on this silver dollar, Lady Liberty is on the face, and on the back is the eagle on the tail side. I'm talking about it at the moment or after ditching. So words themselves are a subtlety. I'm talking about the coin, or I'm talking about anything unrelated to what I intend to do. I don't ever want to say, I'm going to make this coin vanish. I'm in a heap of trouble now. What can I do? I'm going to make the coin vanish. Well, I can't get away with that. Okay. I want to be talking about things that are relevant to the moment, but not related to what I intend to do. Okay, so using words. And I like talking about the coin. I think heads and tails is very, very useful. Lady Liberty on the back is the eagle. I'm gesturing. False transfer, which is another subtlety. Okay, so using words, talking about something. In dealing with someone standing where you're going to ditch to a pocket, you could be talking about placing a hand out. They don't necessarily need to have their hand out, but if you vanish the coin over their hand, that's a reason to have their hand out. It's completely unnecessary, but the point is that having their hand out gives you something to talk about at the moment of ditching and just thereafter. So subtleties, words, talking about something unrelated to what you're going to do is extremely powerful. Asking questions is the most powerful use of words that you can ever have in magic, because once they're thinking about your question, it means they're not thinking about methods. And, I can't think about the question that I've been asked and be thinking it's in the other hand, right? It erases my mind. Contrary to popular belief, you really can't multitask. You have to do one thing at a time. So when you pose a question or you give an instruction or give a direction that they have to think about, and the spectator's mind is off of what is actually happening, which is the ditching and the subtleties that are to follow to show that the coin is in play. So we talked about the pre-ditch subtleties, about taking a coin and then ditching it and then ditching it again. So there's those subtleties too, which you have to be very careful and practiced on. Again, I don't think that's necessarily worth it. Post-ditching subtleties. The false take or the false placement. These are the ways that you can, first of all, get the coin to the other location. So I take it falsely, or I place it falsely. I think that you can use a ring to do this, something I alluded to a moment ago. If you have a metal ring on the hand that's taking, and you have a coin that makes a nice sound, you can place the coin in the hand such that it makes a noise, right? This is a subtlety in terms of the take. I've got the coin here. You've heard it go into the hand. And if it doesn't ring, don't worry about it. It just means you missed, but it's nice when it does. Another thing that you can do, I like to do this with when I have multiple coins. So if I've got 4 coins here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I like to do is whenever I'm retaining something, so I palmed out 1, and I do a false count. I'll go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what I did is I actually just swept. I palmed 1, and I swept the first coin over my ring, and I said 1, 2, 3, 4. The sound, when I counted 1, accounts for a coin that I didn't actually place in there. So rings can be very useful. I think extremely useful in terms of subtlety. So making noises in terms of false placement and false taking. Simple shuttle pass. I turn the hand over and I just put my thumb on the coin. You don't have to hold it in palm. Okay, you don't have to hold it in a palm, a classic palm, to do it. You can just put your thumb on it. You don't have to put it into a thumb grip. You don't have to take the coin and put it back into thumb grip and show the hand's empty. This is the thing that you do. You show the coin, put it back into the thumb grip to show the fingers apart. This is something you do, or in palm, when you have to keep the coin in play and you have to keep going. We're not doing that. We're going to ditch the thing. So you can just put the thumb on it, throw it in, get rid of the coin immediately, have the hand back in before you ever go anywhere. Okay, so that's just a little bit on the false take, false put. Now, subtleties, finger bob. Take the coin, put it in the hand. I've ditched the coin's out of play. I bob the fingers. The idea is that I'm taking the coin and I'm jumping it in the hand or noodling at my fingers with it, right? Like this. But there's nothing there. Bob the fingers. Okay? So I take the coin, place it in the hand, ditch the coin, bob the fingers. Another thing that I can do is what I alluded to with the words is miscall. Miscall the coin, something about it. It doesn't have to be the heads and tails thing. I can put it in there. I could say, and the date on this, I've ditched the coin. I come back. I say, the date is, what is it? 1891. Right? So miscalling, finger bob, miscalling, false transfer. Another thing, maintain finger grip before I do that. I could do this. I could take the coin, put it apparently into the palm, turn my hand over, and hold it at the fingertips. So I'm doing what I would do with a real coin, right? But I'm doing it with no coin. So holding at fingertips like this is another subtlety, especially the transfer to fingertip is a good subtlety. False transfer in and of itself is a subtlety. So I take the coin, put it over here. I do maybe one of the other things. I ditch the coin, and then I false transfer it over here. And then I can gesture at this point. Now I've locked the coin into a place. This hand is free to show openness. Then the coin vanishes. So as a subtlety, falsely transferring back to the other hand, which is now clean, is another subtlety. Extends the time. All of these subtleties extend time to allow the ditching to happen and then impress upon the spectator that there is a coin there. It extends time, but I have to say it only extends a little bit. You should not play this very long. I've seen some presentations where, the coin's in play and then, it's brought to the fingertips and then it's held and repositioned in this way and put down like this and then held like this. And right, that only goes so far. I think that merely transferring one time in a few seconds, 5-6 seconds, I think you've really extended your time out, in my opinion, by that point, and you kind of need to get to business. You only need a few seconds to get clean and to be clean and to still demonstrate that there's a coin in play. So either with finger bob, miscalling something about it, maintaining a finger hold, or transferring it over to another place, even temporarily. Those are the post-ditch subtleties that I think are very, very effective. Now, once you're clean, I think you can slow play the reveal, but again, I don't think that you should keep doing subtleties. I think slow playing the reveal, it looks more like this, right? Coin's taken, it's ditched, it's lapped. I think that you put it into the hand. Slow playing the reveal means going like this. I want you to watch very, very closely. I'm going to lift up one finger at a time. You can see that coin is gone. That is slow playing the reveal. If you are in such a strong position where you're totally clean and they believe that a coin is there, you might as well slow play it. You might as well, because you're not getting, we're not doing this kind of magic again. We're not doing that visual retention. There's none of that. But you still have a strong moment, so you might as well play up that strength. They believe there's a coin there. What is the strength in the experience? It's in the slowness of the vanish. Unbelievable that it has disappeared and everything is empty. So doing it slow. So that's kind of everything I have to say on the topic of ditching. But I think ditching is something that isn't talked about enough. Just the act of getting rid of it. When to do it, how to do it, the timing required to do it, how quickly it can be done, how you do it in such a way and then still impress upon the spectators that the coin is still there. When is the worst time to ditch? After the effect. Oh, it's gone. Ditching now? It's too late. It's too late. In my opinion, it needs to be taken care of before you get to that moment. Okay, you don't want to be stuck with the thing in hand unless it's in hand to bring it back, right? This, watch closely. It's gone, completely gone. Watch, we'll take a little bit of something here, something here, something here. Watch. It's back. That's different because I'm in motion. I'm fluidly in motion. I'm going one thing to the next. Okay, totally different. But if you really want to be clean, you got to ditch before you do the revelation. Make sure that you're done there. So anyway, that's some ditching. Best of luck with that. Happy magicking.